Have you ever had that feeling where you're searching for the right word and just can't find it? Like it's stuck right on the tip of your tongue, but never quite makes it out? Or that moment when you walk into a room and simply forget why you went there, standing there trying to remember, feeling enormously frustrated with yourself? And worst of all, that terrible feeling when someone tells you about a story you lived through together, but you can't remember absolutely anything about it, as if that memory had been erased from your mind? If you've been through this, you know exactly how frightening it is. You know what it's like to look in a mirror and feel like you're losing pieces of yourself day after day, unable to do anything to stop it. And the fear comes with it, doesn't it? That silent fear that you might not even share with your children or your spouse, but it's always there, whispering in the back of your mind. Could this be the beginning of Alzheimer's? Will I not recognize my own family in a few years? Am I going to become a burden to the people I love? I know exactly how you feel, because I talk every day with people who are going through this. And today I want to show you something that can completely change the way you see the situation. Because the truth is there are common foods that you probably already have in your kitchen or can easily find at the store that have the real power to restore lost memories, strengthen brain connections, and bring back that mental clarity you felt years ago. And I'm not talking about expensive supplements, imported magic formulas, or complicated treatments. I'm talking about real food that science has already proven works, and that can start making a difference in your life in the next few days. Now, before we continue, I want to make a very special invitation to you. If you've gotten this far and you're feeling that this video was made exactly for you, that finally someone understands what you're going through, then I would really like you to subscribe to this channel. It's not just so you can get more content like this, but because here you'll find a safe space where we talk truthfully about the fears, the difficulties, and the real solutions for those facing memory problems. You're not alone in this journey, and by subscribing, you become part of a community of people who are seeking the same answers you are, who want to age with dignity, with a clear mind and with the ability to remember the moments that matter most. Click that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you don't miss any new videos. This will make all the difference in your journey. Now, let's get to what really matters. Let's talk about how food can be your greatest ally in this battle for your memory and your identity. And I need to start by explaining something very important to you. Your brain is not broken. It's not doomed to decline. What's happening to you is not an irreversible sentence. What's happening most of the time is that your brain is being deprived of the essential nutrients it needs to function well. Imagine your brain as a busy city, full of streets, avenues, and bridges connecting one neighborhood to another. Every memory, every thought, every word you speak depends on these connections working perfectly. Now, what happens when these bridges start to deteriorate? When the streets get full of potholes? When the avenues get blocked? Traffic stops flowing? Information doesn't get from one place to another, and you start to forget. But here's the wonderful news. These bridges can be rebuilt. These streets can be repaired. And all of this can happen through the right foods. Let me tell you something that will surprise you. There's a food so powerful for the brain that scientists call it neural fertilizer. This food has the ability to make your brain cells grow, multiply, and create new connections, even after 60, 70, 80 years old. This food is healthy fat, especially the kind that comes from fish like salmon, sardines, and mackerel. When you eat these fish, you're providing your brain with something called omega-3, especially two very special types, DHA and EPA. Now, I know these names might sound complicated, but what you need to understand is very simple. DHA is literally the building material of your brain. More than 60% of your brain's fat is made of DHA. So when you don't consume enough DHA, it's like trying to build a house without bricks. It simply doesn't work. And EPA, it's your brain's firefighter. It puts out the inflammation that destroys your brain cells and is directly linked to the development of Alzheimer's and dementia. Studies show that people who eat fatty fish at least twice a week have a significantly lower risk of developing serious memory problems. And more than that, people who are already experiencing frequent forgetfulness report visible improvements in just a few weeks when they start including these fish in their diet. But there's another food that's even more surprising because it's cheap, accessible, and available at any grocery store. I'm talking about eggs. Yes, Those eggs you probably have in your fridge right now. For decades, we were told that eggs were villains, that they raised cholesterol, that they were bad for the heart. But modern science has completely debunked that idea. And today we know that eggs are one of the most powerful foods to protect and restore memory. That's because the egg yolk is rich in a substance called choline. And choline is the raw material your brain uses to produce acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter absolutely essential for memory. Without enough acetylcholine, your brain simply can't form new memories or access old ones. That's why many of the medications used for Alzheimer's try to increase acetylcholine levels in the brain. But here's the problem. These medications have serious side effects and only work temporarily. Choline from eggs, on the other hand, is natural, safe, and works in a lasting way. Studies show that people who consume more choline perform better on memory tests and have a lower risk of dementia. And it doesn't need to be an absurd amount. 2 eggs a day already provide a significant amount of choline that your brain will use immediately to improve your ability to remember, to think, and to reason. And now I want to pause for a moment and ask you a very important question. I want you to reflect honestly. Have you been feeling like you're losing pieces of your memory? Have you had that silent fear that this could be something more serious? If the answer is yes, I want you to go to the comments right now and write exactly this. I'm losing my memory and I need help. It may seem simple, but when you write that, you're taking the first step to change your reality. You're acknowledging the problem and seeking solutions. And you know what else? When you comment, you help other people who are going through the same thing realize they're not alone. So go ahead now, pause the video for a second if you need to, and write in the comments, I'm losing my memory and I need help. This will make all the difference, both for you and for other people who are watching. Now, let's continue talking about these incredible foods. Because there's a type of food that's so powerful for the brain that it should be consumed every day. But most people simply ignore it. I'm talking about berries. Strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries. These fruits are little bombs of antioxidants, especially a class of antioxidants called anthocyanins. And anthocyanins do something absolutely extraordinary. They cross the blood-brain barrier, which is the brain's natural protection, and reach directly to your brain cells, protecting them from oxidative stress and inflammation. You know that feeling of mental confusion, of brain fog, of not being able to think clearly? A large part of that comes from inflammation and oxidation in the brain. And berries fight this directly and powerfully. Studies show that people who regularly eat berries have cognitive decline up to 2.5 years slower than people who don't. That means eating a handful of strawberries or blueberries every day can literally give you years more of clear and functional memory. But here's something I need to tell you with complete honesty. It won't help if you eat these foods while you continue filling your body with poisons that destroy your brain. And when I say poisons, I'm mainly talking about sugar and ultra-processed foods. Sugar is one of the biggest enemies of your brain. When you consume excess sugar, especially refined sugar, you're causing blood glucose spikes that generate intense inflammation in the brain. And this inflammation destroys your brain cells, damages your neural connections, and accelerates the development of Alzheimer's. It's not an exaggeration. Many scientists today refer to Alzheimer's as type 3 diabetes because there's a direct and proven link between excessive sugar consumption and the development of dementia. So if you really want to protect your memory, if you really want to have mental clarity in the coming years, you need to cut or drastically reduce sugar from your life. And I know this may seem difficult, especially if you have a habit of eating sweets, sodas, industrial juices, cookies, and cakes. But the truth is your brain is worth that effort. Your ability to remember your grandchildren's faces, to recognize the people you love, to tell your own stories is worth much more than any candy or piece of cake. Now, there's another group of foods I need to introduce you to, and that's often ignored when we talk about brain health. Dark leafy greens. Spinach, kale, arugula, watercress, dark lettuce. These leaves are rich in B-complex vitamins, especially folic acid and in vitamin K. And these vitamins are absolutely essential for brain function. Folic acid, for example, helps reduce levels of a substance called homocysteine, which when high in the blood is directly associated with brain damage and increased risk of Alzheimer's. Vitamin K is involved in protecting brain cells and maintaining cognitive functions. Studies show that people who consume more leafy greens have a functionally younger brain, with better memory, better reasoning ability, and lower risk of cognitive decline. And it doesn't need to be an absurd amount. A generous salad at lunch and dinner already makes a huge difference. And now I want to talk about something you may have never heard of, but that could be the missing piece in your memory puzzle. I'm talking about the importance of spices, especially turmeric, which is also known as curcuma. Turmeric contains a substance called curcumin, which is one of the most powerful natural anti-inflammatories that exists. And inflammation, as I've already said several times, is one of the main causes of cognitive decline and Alzheimer's. But curcumin does more than just fight inflammation. Studies show that it also helps dissolve the beta-amyloid protein plaques that accumulate in the brains of people with Alzheimer's. These plaques are like debris blocking the connections between neurons, preventing communication, and causing memory loss. And curcumin has the ability to help the body clear this debris, restoring brain communication. It's no wonder that in countries like India, where turmeric consumption is very high, the incidence of Alzheimer's is significantly lower than in Western countries. So adding a teaspoon of turmeric to your food every day, whether in rice, beans, soup, or juice, can be a powerful tool to protect and restore your memory. But I know that right now you might be thinking, okay, I understand that food is important, but will just that really work? Will just changing my diet make a difference if I'm already forgetting things frequently? And the answer is, yes, it works. And it works in a way you might not imagine. Because when you provide your brain with the right nutrients, you're not just preventing more damage, you're actively repairing and rebuilding. The brain has an incredible ability to regenerate itself, to create new connections, to adapt. This is called neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity has no age. Even if you're 70, 80 years old, your brain can still create new cells, new connections, new pathways to store and access memories. But for that, it needs fuel. It needs the right fats, the right vitamins, the right antioxidants. And when you provide all of this through food, results start to appear. First, you notice you're able to remember little things that used to slip away. Then you notice you're more alert, more present in conversations. And over time, you feel that mental fog is dissipating, that you're becoming yourself again. There's another food I need to mention, which is extremely powerful but rarely talked about: walnuts and other nuts like cashews, almonds, and pistachios. These foods are rich in vitamin E, which is a fundamental antioxidant to protect brain cells from aging. Studies show that people with adequate vitamin E levels have a much lower risk of developing Alzheimer's. And walnuts, specifically, also contain plant-based omega-3, which complements the omega-3 from fish. In addition, walnuts are rich in polyphenol, which are substances that fight inflammation and improve communication between neurons. So including a handful of walnuts in your daily routine, whether at breakfast, afternoon snack, or as a healthy treat, can make a significant difference in your brain health. Now I need to talk about something very important, which is often forgotten when we talk about food for the brain: the importance of hydration. Your brain is made up of about 75% water. This means that even mild dehydration can cause mental confusion, difficulty concentrating, and memory problems. Many people, especially after 60, simply don't feel thirsty like they used to and end up drinking very little water throughout the day. And this has a direct impact on brain function. So one of the simplest and most powerful things you can do for your memory is make sure you're drinking enough water, at least 6 to 8 glasses a day. And if you have trouble remembering to drink water, set alarms on your phone. Keep a bottle always nearby. Create the habit of drinking a glass of water when you wake up, before each meal, and before bed. This alone can considerably improve your mental clarity. And there's something else I need to tell you. Something that may be hard to hear, but that's absolutely essential for you to know. Alcohol, even in moderate amounts, can be extremely harmful to the brain, especially to a brain that's already facing memory difficulties. Alcohol damages brain cells, interferes with the formation of new memories, and can accelerate cognitive decline. I know many people have the habit of having a beer at the end of the day or wine at dinner, and that it's part of their social routine. But if you're really worried about your memory, if you're really feeling like you're losing pieces of yourself, then you need to make a choice. And I guarantee you that the feeling of having your memory back, of being able to remember things, of feeling present and conscious is worth much more than any drink. Now, let's talk about something practical, because I know you might be wondering, how do I put all this together? How do I create a diet that really works for my brain? And the answer is simpler than you think. You don't need to completely revolutionize your kitchen overnight. You can start slowly, making smart swaps. Start including eggs in your breakfast. Switch white bread for whole grain bread, or even tapioca with egg. Add berries to your morning or afternoon snack. Make sure to eat fish at least twice a week. It can be salmon, sardines, or mackerel. Put a generous salad at lunch and dinner, with dark leaves, tomato, carrot. Season with extra virgin olive oil, which is also an excellent healthy fat for the brain. Add a handful of walnuts or cashews in the middle of the afternoon. Put turmeric in your food whenever possible. And reduce sugar and processed foods to a minimum. Switch soda for water or natural juice without sugar. Switch packaged cookies for fruit. Switch industrial snacks for nuts. These are small changes, but added together they make a huge difference. And you know what's most beautiful about all this? You don't have to wait months to feel the results. Many people report that already in the first weeks of healthier eating, they start to feel a difference in mental clarity, in energy, in the ability to remember things. Because the brain responds quickly when you give it what it needs. It was just waiting for the right nutrients to be able to function well again. And when you provide these nutrients, it's like turning on a light that's been off for a long time. But I need to tell you something with complete honesty. Food alone isn't everything. It's a foundation, it's fundamental. But it works even better when you combine it with other healthy habits. And one of these habits is movement, physical activity. You don't need to go to a gym. You don't need to do intense exercises. But you need to move. It can be a 30-minute walk every day. It can be dancing in your living room. It can be stretching. It can be gardening. The important thing is that you get your body out of inertia, because when you move, you increase blood flow to brain. You stimulate the production of new brain cells. You improve oxygenation of all tissues. And this has a direct impact on your memory and cognitive ability. Another essential habit is sleep. Sleeping well is absolutely fundamental for memory consolidation. It's during sleep that the brain processes everything you experience during the day, organizes information, discards what's not important, and stores what's relevant. If you don't sleep well, if you have choppy sleep, if you wake up several times during the night, your brain can't do this organizing work. And the result is that you wake up tired, with a confused mind, with difficulty remembering things. So take care of your sleep. Create a routine of go to bed at the same time. Avoid phone and TV screens at least an hour before sleeping. Keep the room dark and quiet. Avoid coffee and other stimulants in the afternoon. Your brain will thank you. And there's one more thing that makes all the difference. Mental stimulation. The brain is like a muscle. If you don't use it, it atrophies. So it's essential that you continue challenging your mind. It can be reading books. It can be doing crosswords. It can be learning something new like a musical instrument or a new language. It can be playing memory and reasoning games. The important thing is that you keep your brain active and engaged. And you know what's interesting? Studies show that people who keep their minds active throughout life have a much lower risk of developing Alzheimer's, even if they have genetic predisposition. This shows the power you have in your hands to change your brain destiny. Now I want to go back to food, because there's a very common mistake I see people making, and that can be completely sabotaging results. This mistake is the following: eating the right foods, but in inadequate amounts or in wrong combinations. For example, it won't help if you eat a wonderful salad at lunch if you're going to fill your plate with white rice, pasta, potatoes, and bread all at the same time. Because when you consume too many refined carbohydrates at once, you cause a blood glucose spike, and this spike generates inflammation and impairs brain function. The ideal is that you balance your plate well. Half the plate with vegetables, a quarter with quality protein like fish, chicken, or eggs, and a quarter with whole grain carbohydrates like brown rice, sweet potato, or quinoa. And always add a good fat like olive oil, avocado, or nuts. This combination keeps glucose stable, provides all the nutrients the brain needs, and avoids insulin spikes that harm memory. And there's another point I need to tell you about. which is about food quality. Whenever possible, choose organic foods, especially when we're talking about fruits, vegetables, and eggs. Because the pesticides used in conventional agriculture have neurotoxic effects, meaning they harm the nervous system and can contribute to cognitive decline. I know organic foods can be more expensive, but if you can't buy everything organic, prioritize at least those you consume most frequently, like leafy greens and berries. And in the case of eggs, look for eggs from free-range chickens, naturally fed, because these eggs have a much higher concentration of nutrients important for the brain. Now I want to tell you something that can completely change the way you see aging and memory. Society taught us that it's normal to lose memory as we age, that it's normal to get confused, that it's normal to forget things. But that's not true. Yes, it's true that the brain goes through changes over the years, but significant memory loss is not an inevitable part of aging. It's the result of decades of bad habits, inadequate nutrition, lack of stimulation, chronic stress, poor sleep. And the good news is that all of this can be reversed. You can, yes, be 70, 80 years old and have excellent memory, a clear mind, quick reasoning. But for that, you need to take the reins of your brain health. You need to make conscious choices every day. And food is the central pillar of these choices. There's something I always tell people who come to me worried about memory. Fear is a sign that you're aware of the problem, and that's good. Because while you're aware, you can act. The problem is when a person ignores the signs, when they pretend everything's fine, when they postpone the necessary changes. Because then when they realize it, the decline is already very advanced, and it becomes much harder to reverse. So if you're feeling afraid, if you're worried, use that as fuel to act now. Don't wait anymore. Start today making the changes your brain is asking for. And I want to remind you of something very important. You're not alone on this journey. There are thousands of people going through the same thing as you, who have the same fears, the same doubts, the same difficulties. And that's why I created this channel, to be a space of welcome, quality information, real support. So if you haven't subscribed yet, I invite you again to do it now. Because every week I bring new content in this science-based, but always with clear and accessible language, speaking directly to you, with respect, with empathy, without judgments. And by subscribing and turning on the bell, you ensure you'll continue receiving this information that can literally change your life. So go ahead and subscribe now. Now let's talk about something that might be harming your memory, and you don't even realize it. Chronic stress. When you live in a state of constant stress, your body produces high levels of cortisol, which is the stress hormone. And cortisol in excess is highly toxic to the brain, especially to a region called the hippocampus, which is the memory processing center. Cortisol literally shrinks the hippocampus, reducing its ability to form and access memories. So if you live worried, anxious, tense, fighting with everyone, ruminating on problems, holding grudges, you're literally destroying your memory. And the solution to this isn't easy, because often stress comes from situations that aren't totally under our control. But there are things you can do to better manage stress. Practice deep breathing. Do meditation, even if it's just 5 minutes a day. Spend time in nature. Cultivate healthy relationships. Do activities that bring you pleasure. These things may seem silly, but they have a profound impact on brain health. And there's another factor I need to mention, which is social isolation. Studies show that people who maintain strong social connections, who talk with friends, who participate in group activities, who have a support network, have a much lower risk of cognitive decline. Because social interaction stimulates the brain in a way that few other things can. When you talk with someone, when you tell a story, when you listen and process what the other person is saying, you're activating multiple brain areas at the same time. So don't isolate yourself. Even if you think you're bothering someone, reach out to your friends, your family. Participate in groups, community activities. This is as important as eating the right foods. Now I want to talk about something that might be hard for you to accept, but that's fundamental. The importance of asking for help when necessary. Many people are ashamed to admit they're having memory problems. They hide it from their children, from their spouse, from friends. They make up excuses for forgetfulness, pretend everything's fine, but inside they're dying of fear. And that's terrible, because when you hide the problem, you delay seeking solutions. So if you're really worried, if forgetfulness is becoming frequent, and interfering with your life, see a doctor. Get tests done. Investigate. Because the sooner you identify the cause of the problem, the easier it is to treat it. And most of the time, the problem isn't Alzheimer's. It could be vitamin B12 deficiency. It could be a thyroid problem. It could be medication side effects. It could be depression. These are things that have treatment and can be resolved. And now, going back to foods, I want to talk about something that's extremely important but often neglected: fermented foods. Plain yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi. These foods are rich in probiotics, which are beneficial bacteria that live in your gut. And you might be wondering, but what does the gut have to do with memory? Everything. Because there's direct communication between the gut and the brain, called the gut-brain axis. When you have a healthy gut with balanced microbiota, this is reflected in a healthy brain. And the opposite is also true. An inflamed gut with dysbiosis is directly associated with brain inflammation and cognitive decline. So including fermented foods in your diet is a powerful way to care for the brain through the gut. There's also the question of supplements. Many people ask me if it's worth taking supplements for memory. And my answer is, it depends. If you have nutritional deficiencies identified through tests, then yes, supplementation can be very beneficial. For example, vitamin B12 deficiency is extremely common in people over 60 and causes serious memory and cognition problems. In these cases, supplementing B12 can bring significant improvements. The same goes for vitamin D, omega-3, magnesium. But supplementation should be done with medical guidance based on tests, because supplementing without need can be useless or even harmful. The foundation should always be food. Supplements only come to complement when necessary. And now I want you to reflect on something very important. Why do you want to preserve your memory? It may seem like an obvious question, but I want you to really think about it. Do you want to preserve your memory to be able to remember special moments with your family? To be able to tell your stories to your grandchildren? To maintain your independence and autonomy? To continue being yourself? Whatever your reason is, it's valid and it's important. And I want you to hold on tight to that reason, because it will be your fuel on days when it's hard to make the right choices, on days when you're tempted to go back to old habits. Remember your why. Remember what you have to lose if you don't take care of your brain health. And remember what you have to gain if you do things right. I want to finish this video by reminding you of something essential. You have power. You have the power to change the trajectory of your brain health. You're not at the mercy of fate. You're not doomed to lose your memory. You're not destined to develop Alzheimer's. You have in your hands, or rather on your plate, the most powerful tool to protect and restore your mind. And that tool is food. So use it wisely. Make conscious choices. Prioritize real food rich in nutrients that nourishes your body and your mind. Avoid poisons disguised as food. Take care of your sleep, your movement, your stress, your social connections. Because all of this works together to keep your brain functioning well. And when you do all this, when you really commit to your brain health, results appear. You start remembering things again. You start feeling present again. You start recognizing yourself in the mirror again. And that's priceless. So I invite you to start today. Not tomorrow, not Monday, not when you have time or money. Today. Choose one change to make today. It could be including eggs at breakfast. It could be buying a handful of strawberries for a snack. It could be switching soda for water. It could be taking a 15-minute walk. The size of the change doesn't matter. What matters is that you begin, because every small healthy choice is a brick in building a strong and resilient brain. And if you're already doing some of these things, keep going. Don't give up. Results may not appear overnight, but they do appear. And when they do, you'll feel deeply grateful for having made these choices. If this video helped you, if it gave you hope, if it showed you there's a path, leave that like, because it helps the video reach other people who are suffering in silence and who need to hear this message. And if you have any questions, any story to share, any experience with these foods, write it here in the comments. I read them all, and whenever possible, I respond. A big hug, and see you in the next video.